On this week's episode, we're going to discuss some dangerous security flaws with command not found that you need to be aware of and what you should do to stay safe. Welcome to episode number 360, where we come full circle of Destination Linux, your favorite video podcast. My name is Jill.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Michael.
We're also going to cover Raspberry Pi going big time. Now let's get the show on the road toward Destination Linux.
Our feedback this week comes from Alex. He says, "Your show is simply epic." Thank you very much. I agree.
Woohoo.
And I tune in every time. I've been rocking Linux in my personal and professional life since 1994, roughly 30 years now, and you can all guess why I'm so stoked about the open source OS. However, last week, I had an experience that shouldn't be happening in this day and age because I heard about the True Detective series and wanted to catch the 4th season. I quickly signed up with a European streaming provider, WoW. It says that he lives in Germany. And in their terms, they claimed their player required no extra software, just runs in the browser. So I thought with the latest Firefox or Google Chrome, I could make use of their offering. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And this is in the year 2024. And after some digging, I found out it only works in the browser on the 2 proprietary operating systems, Mac and Windows. I'm deeply disappointed because Linux users aren't aliens anymore in this day and age, right? Maybe I could make this public and hopefully something will change. And he says, keep coding and may your terminal always return 0 bang. Is it 0 bang or just 0?
I think just 0.
Zero.
Interesting. Because I read the explanation as
You're
a
such
terminal,
a nerd that you put
as a
that.
terminal output.
I love that.
That was great.
That's so
Live
nerd.
long and prosper in binary.
Aw, peace and long life, Alex.
Yes,
The response.
indeed. Well, thank you, Alex, for sending this in. First of all, appreciate the compliments on the show being epic. I mean, we agree. Lots of people
100% agreed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agree.
Great point.
It's very
Aw.
frustrating when the streaming services on the internet pull some crap like this with their DRM. I remember HBO, I think initially. Disney definitely had some issues for a
Disney
while.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Netflix.
So here's what I want to do, Michael. We need to fix this. Alex is a pretty cool person here. They love this show. They think we're epic. So let's do something epic about this.
I'm all ears. What's that?
I think we send out a tweet or X or whatever the heck it's called these days to WoW. And we tell them, hey, we need you to fix this. Our listeners want to use your service and they can't. And we need Linux to not be a second citizen, and see if we can get the rest of our community. There's like 100,000 of you out there. Go out there and start bumping this up with thumbs up and retweeting it to get WoW's attention. I'm going to see if we can get the whole community in on this.
I like
If
this.
you hear this
This is
message
awesome.
and you have X or Twitter, or even just sign up just to do this, we're going to send out the initial tweet. You repost it, retweet it. We're going to get WoW's attention big time to say, fix this, so that our man Alex can watch True Detective Season 4, which, by the way, I happened to come across randomly a review of Season 4 of True Detective. I've never watched any of them and heard Season 4 is not as good as Season 1 through 3. So you might not be missing much, Alex. I don't know. 'Cause I don't
But
watch the
it
series.
also seemed like
But-
he just found True Detective in general. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
if they, because the first season I did watch and it was quite good. And the second
Nice.
season I sort of watched a little and I'm like, maybe it's not my thing. But it was still, the first season was very good. So I have no idea about the 4th, but it's not, depending on your preference of shows, there are so many options, but I'm sure there are also many more people who want to watch WoW for this and other things
Other
as well.
services, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Halo,
So-
maybe. Well, no, that's on Paramount Plus. Well, maybe it's in
I
WoW
mean,
in Europe. You never know.
We don't know what's in
Yeah.
Europe, so
I have
maybe
no
it
clue.
is. And this is definitely something that I think that it shouldn't happen. I agree with Alex that at this point, why are we still dealing with this? Because it doesn't. It's not required. It like everybody else, all the other streaming platforms make it really easy to use Linux to the point where I kind of forgot that we had this problem because it's
Yeah.
been so many years.
True.
We used to have this problem for everything, and now I guess we're taking it for granted. But let's.
Well, this is a
I
call to
agree. We
action.
should definitely tweet it.
This is battle. This is war now. We are going to go out there as an open source Linux army. Jill, I need you to
Yeah.
send the tweet because Michael will forget. If you could send the tweet out just at WoW telling them, hey, our listeners want to use your service on Linux and can't. And then once that goes out, all of our listeners need to go out there and repost this and like it and get WOW's attention
Sounds
on
good.
this, and we'll see if we get it fixed. We're
And
going
they're
to
going to
war,
say,
people.
wow, we get it.
Yeah. Call to action.
Absolutely. Aw, but thank you so much, Alex, for bringing this to our attention and writing us and telling us a little bit about your Linux journey. That's always cool. I love to hear that from our viewers. And Alex, I have a few suggestions for you. Have you tried using the user agent switcher extension for Firefox or for Chrome? This allows you to try switching your browser to make the streaming service think that you're using the Microsoft Edge browser on Windows or Firefox or Chrome or
Yeah, it's just to confuse the stream so they don't have to worry about,
Yeah,
like
it's
my
confusing to even
explanation.
explain, but it confuses the system, and that's the key.
Yeah,
it confuses the system to thinking you're on Windows. And yeah, I think that's a great idea, Jill.
Yeah. And also, Alex, you may have already, tried this option, and it may or may not work. It's always a good try. The proprietary Widevine digital rights management protocol may be too strong on the WoW streaming service. That may be why Linux is being blocked, because that's what used to happen in the past with Netflix and Disney Plus and so on and so forth.
It's probably that. And even if it's not, if the user agent does work, that means that it's not Widevine. It's more of their choice, which will be even more annoying. But regardless, we're still going to be sending out this tweet because it needs to be. Important. This shouldn't be a thing that we're even worrying about in the first place.
Oh no, we're at war. We're at war.
Yeah, we're at war. Yeah, exactly. Figuratively, and also. Running Windows in a VM would work if you wanted to do it that way. It would be kind of a heavy solution, but it would work. Absolutely. And you could also maybe try getting like a set-top box or something from, Amazon or whatever. And that might work too, because usually those don't have to deal with, even if they're based on Linux, which most of them are, it's still like they make they don't be annoying for those particular devices.
Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, if you don't fix this, we might start recommending people go to Kapow instead of using WoW.
Or maybe if they want to watch cars, it's Ka-chow.
Ka-chow. Yeah. Ka-chow. Don't make us do that. Wow. Don't make us.
Ka-chow.
I think using a Windows VM could work. Some people, they don't want to have the Windows VM option, but a Windows VM may be something you could try if your computer is powerful enough to run that VM and also the streaming service. So these are basically suggestions in between our war starting. When the war ends, you won't have to do any of this because WoW will just work.
We were just saying, just in case you want to, watch those things and in the meantime sort of thing. But we're coming after you.
Want to do that tweet.
Coming after you. That's right. Be scared. Be afraid.
Be very afraid.
Look at Michael's face. It's scary. So super scary. You need to watch the video version just for that. The intimidation alone, it struck fear in my feet went numb. It was crazy.
I think it's just because I've been standing for too long.
Oh, my bad. Knew it was something.
So it had to be something.
So Alex, thanks again for sending in your question and comments. We appreciate it. And if you are listening right now and want to send in your own comments, maybe you have some suggestions for Alex as well in between when we win the battle and not, you can head to destinationlinux.net/comments to send them in. We'd love to hear from you. Like to know how you think about our show, some of the topics that we cover, anything that's on your mind. Send it destinationlinux.net/comments.
Well, almost anything.
Almost anything, yeah. True. That's a good little caveat there.
When you go through an airport security, there's one line where you go through to check the TSA, getting your ID checking. And then there's the other line where a machine scans your bag. And then if you're lucky, that's all the lines you have. But sometimes there's a few more. But the same thing happens in enterprise security too. And by the same thing, I mean, there's multiple levels of checks, not for passengers and luggage, but for end users and their devices.
And wow, comparing this to an airport is interesting because being in corporate America for so many years, TSA is extraordinarily frustrating, probably the worst part of travel. And corporate security is also the worst part about being a corporation. So I see how those two connect there perfectly.
And also it might connect a little level, but at the point where, the people who are the TSA agents are dealing with the stuff that's very frustrating because they're dealing with thousands of people who are doing it wrong and not prepared for certain things at certain times. And then you have the security team who are dealing with people who don't know how to use their devices sometimes. And, wide variety of things. But, these days, most companies are good at the first part of checking user identity. They have some kind of solution there. But user devices, well, that isn't always the case, because sometimes they could just roll right through the authentication process without getting inspected at all. Like sometimes your bags might not get inspected at all. In fact, 47% of companies allow unmanaged, untrusted devices to access their data. That means an employee can log in from a laptop that has its firewall turned off and hasn't been updated in 6 months. Like Ryan takes forever to update stuff.
Wait, what? I update all the time. What are you talking
about?
Oh,
that was me.
That's you. That's you.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
You wouldn't be trusted. You shouldn't be trusted. That's the problem. All these other people, they're
no. I update the stuff that I need to connect to like stuff like this. Just
they need all the corporations need to kick Michael off their network immediately because he's untrusted and unauthenticated.
This system is up to date. I just want to verify that that's no longer
think about
a problem.
All the apps and things people put on their personal devices, and so many businesses.
Oh yeah,
they require you to utilize your personal device as kind of your 2FA and also your security to get into your VPN for your business. And on top of that, they've got TikTok and Facebook and any other random scanning
or
app.
Just weird random apps they download that have like tons of ads or, some kind of coupon app or something,
Yeah. And then these apps request permissions, like give me permission to your network, give me permission to search your network stuff, give me permission. And the corporations
give me permission to your location for some reason.
Yeah, and the corporations are all their data is going to get zapped up in that app just like anybody else's if there's nothing to stop it.
But luckily, there is something to stop it, and that's called Kolide, because Kolide solves the device trust problem. They ensure that no device can log into your Okta-protected apps unless it passes your security checks. Plus, you can use Kolide on devices without MDM, like your Linux Fleet contractor devices, and the BYOD or bring your own device stuff like phones and laptops in your company. So you can have it. And the best part about Kolide is that if they find an issue, you don't have to tell the person to contact security team. They can actually explain to them what they need to do to fix the authentication problem, which is fantastic because it saves your team time for working on everybody's device. And it also makes it possible for if someone hits a hiccup, like a roadblock, they can get past it, which is very important. So visit destinationlinux.net/Kolide to watch a demo and to see how it works. That's destinationlinux.net/KOLIDE.
All right. So we're talking about DRM and how it can be too secure. But Michael, what if something's not secure enough? That's bad too. You can have the opposite effect here. You see where I'm going?
Yeah, you just use Kolide.
That's true. You can just use Kolide. Maybe snaps need to use Kolide because in the news this week, there's a situation going on with snaps. And by the way, can I mention our timing is impeccable?
We are so good.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to remind people, we are so good at timing things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't tell you how many times we've done this, but on many occasions, we have had segments on our show and immediately following it, the next week, sometimes the next day, something comes out that is either directly referencing us as maybe being wrong or just not having the full context. And that has happened so many times.
That's what happens when you get big time. We spark people's imaginations and they start writing articles out there. So
exactly.
We
they
did
go
the
in
episode
and
on snap critiques.
Research as because of our show.
Yeah. I guess we could say that we did that. What was it? The feedback that we got that we weren't genuine. We were disingenuous.
Disingenuous.
Yes. We did the disingenuous review of snaps in a prior episode. And, we talked about the critiques that were out there on that. It was a great episode, still very relevant. But hey, we bring you all the news, no matter what. All of the stuff, good or bad. So shortly after that, an article from Aquasec detailed a security flaw that's kind of a big deal. So Aqua Nautilus researchers identified this issue with Ubuntu's command not found package and snap repository. So basically, how I understand it is when you type a command that you can't execute, and you've seen this before if you've been in Ubuntu, it'll say the command not found message shows up, but it will try to suggest things that you won't need to install to be able to execute that specific command. So for example, if you go on your terminal and you type code and you don't have anything code installed, it will basically say, hey, why don't you try installing Visual Studio Code? And then when you type code, it will launch Visual Studio Code. It's actually a really convenient AI-like feature. I love it. I love that it comes up and suggests that. The problem is that apparently it can be really easily duped. And the root cause, according to Aquasec, is that the proprietary Snap store that is hit up through the snap advise snap command hits a database online, and researchers were able to replicate this very easily where they're able to register a name and upload an app on the Snap store pretending to be, say, Visual Studio Code really easily. And so they can create because there's not a lot of checks and balances going on, they can dupe it, and there's not a lot of gatekeeping, and they can put a fake app up there, and this can create a problem because people think it's the real thing. And additionally, if there's already something with that name, apparently they can use some form of alias to still make it look like it's another version of, say, Visual Studio Code or something else in there. So,
like having the name of VS Code dash something?
Yeah, like some type of alias or something that they're doing in there. I didn't quite understand that part, but they said they were able to do it. So even if you have an app that's, say, Destination Linux, someone else can alias their app to make it that fake app still get uploaded.
That's much worse.
Like a destination dash Linux or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, before we get too upset, apt has a database as well and can also suffer from this same flaw. The major difference, again, according to this research company, is that with apt, the developers have to undergo a pretty severe, acceptance process in order to start being able to develop with apt. So there's a lot of criteria.
Well, that's slightly different just because the process, there is some element of why I see why the snaps would happen much more so than the debs, because it's not because the apt system or the deb system or Debian or any of that stuff is more secure by default or any of that. It's because the process has to be more gatekeeping, as it were, because of the fact that the deb package system has no security system whatsoever in it. So it might be more laxable to do with snaps, where if there's a containment system, it could be something that they kind of pull back on having to gatekeep everything. Whereas debs, if you did that, well, then your whatever malicious thing you put in there has root access and all that stuff. So it could be very bad. So that's why, and it's also probably because getting maintainership inside of Ubuntu's debs and in Debian is a very hard thing to do just in general. And I think that's more along the lines. It's not necessarily that the app does it better. It's just because of there's a need for much more with debs than that.
Well, I would say just because of that, app does do it better because that security does security better. Now you're saying it's because there's nothing inherently in it, but they actually have a process that is very robust.
That's not exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's a false sense of security that they have with snaps because of the confinement system.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think part of the whole thing with snaps is you've created your one store. And my expectation, if you're doing that, number one, my expectation is that you open source it. But beyond that, my expectation is that you would have to curate this. One of the advantages of you owning this store entirely is that it's far better curated than if we had a store that was, say, out there by a third party. So my expectation is that I'm more secure utilizing snaps and have more curation than I would in other packages. And what we're finding, at least in this particular case, is not saying everything is not more secure, is that the curation process to be able to submit an app is inherently broken. And I do believe, to be very clear, that Ubuntu will fix this now that it's been brought to their attention. But, that kind of stinks that we've kind of had this play out. And I think there's been malicious apps in apt before. I know there is, that have gotten into apt before. and into AUR and other repositories. So this isn't like you're going to have a perfect system, but this seems way too open and free based on this research here.
I think that's fair. And I do think that it is important to note that some of the stuff that has been put into place for Canonical to do some gatekeeping at times were like temporary actions and not fully robust solutions. And also, with the example of it being as easy as it is, that's, a big red flag for me. So hopefully they do address this, because this is something that if you're going to have the centralized store, which, by the way, I think a centralized store is a necessity for something like this, whether it's closed or open source, that's not relevant to the fact that I do think a centralized store is important.
Tommy in the back again, Michael.
I'm saying that it's important regardless of that piece. However, I do agree that having an open source solution is more ideal. But at the same time, if you're going to insist on a closed, you should at least have a policy to make sure that it is as robust as possible when it comes to gatekeeping and making sure that phishing apps don't get in easily, and make sure that anything that has the word crypto in it is flagged instantly.
Oh, yeah.
For review for a long time.
I think they need to adopt a lot of what FlatHub is doing. I mean, they've started their verification process, like especially within the last year. And I think that's made people think the platform is more secure because of that.
Yeah. The verified app process in Flatpak basically says that, this app has been or hasn't been verified. That's a really good system.
Well, the verification in Flatpaks and FlatHub is solely that the original creator is the one putting the Flatpak out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that should indicate that is a solid option. So if you go to the Firefox Flatpak, it's verified and you're like, cool, Mozilla's making that. I can trust it. But you could also get a verified nonsense package in there too, because the original creator of the nonsense put in the nonsense. And so the verification is only to some degree a security factor. You should still also pay attention to like the permissions that it's asking for and things like that too, which is great that the FlatHub does provide that information too. So I do think that the latest version of the FlatHub has made huge improvements, both in privacy, both in permissions, being aware for the user, and also the verification system. Very important, because Flatpaks for Firefox have been official and not verified, but they've been officially maintained by Mozilla for years, and most people had no idea. And when they introduced that, then people saw it, and I think that's a good idea. And hopefully, the Snaps do this as something similar, and also
Canonical,
address this part too.
Help us help you. Help us help you. Like this shouldn't be happening. Now, I do want to mention the article states that their research also indicates that as many as 26% of commands, which there's a lot of commands, so 26% is a lot, like a lot.
Like
the
a
commands
lot.
associated with apt, not Snaps, apt, advanced package tool, are vulnerable to impersonation by malicious actors. So that's their statement. They didn't provide all the details in the article of what those were, but apt also has some clear security flaws and issues. In fact, just to be clear, everything that software has security flaws.
Yeah,
everything that was created by a human, including AI, because we made those too, has potential flaws.
Yeah. So all these,
and also it's important to note: are they talking about apt as the package manager tool, or are they talking about apt as in the collective set of tools? Because a lot of people don't know that apt is both a collection of stuff that Debian made, and then also a specific binary package named apt. So if you say apt, like apt install insert thing, that's different than apt get. And people still say apt-get, even though you don't need to do that anymore. But the point is that those are completely different projects, even though they're both named apt. So I'm curious if that 26% relates to specifically apt, but it's saying apt packages, so it might be referring to the stuff that's the other stuff, like apt cache and all that.
Maybe.
Cache,
so isn't it fun how complicated things can be?
Very fun. Yeah, and Snaps solve that. I mean, that's one of their goals, is to solve some of the complication, but it has to be secure. It can't be like the Microsoft Store, which I guess we can't make fun of anymore because you can't throw stones in a glass house.
Absolutely can. We absolutely can throw stones because we're not in a glass house, because the Microsoft Store has those things. They know it and keep them there.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
It's a little bit worse.
I mean, it's wild, wild west in the Microsoft Store. And then, but hopefully, I not even hopefully, I know Canonical will go in there and fix and put some mitigations in place here. And I think it's great that we have research companies out there. Huge props to them for going out there and discovering this and then testing it and then putting screenshots to show you exactly how they did it and what they did. I thought it was very thorough. It was very well done.
Very cool.
And that's the type of stuff that keeps us safe in open source, and why open source is very important when it comes to security and things in there. So all in all, I'm not happy this happened, but I'm happy it was discovered, and I think we'll get a fix in.
And it's also better to be discovered by people who want to help than other.
Exactly.
So this is good.
Wasn't there a story this week about something with a crypto tool that this happened?
There
recently?
was an issue with a phishing app that was put into Snaps that was basically like pretending to be a wallet app, and some people used it and they lost some coins of some kind, and it was reported and it was taken down, and it was only there for like 2 days, but it's still, in that small amount of time, was still able to fish someone and that sort of stuff. So they did find out that the method of getting stuff in the Snap Store was also very lax, which is similar to the same kind of problem that this command not found thing has. So it's kind of the same problem along the lines of, if they fixed one, they fixed the other. But it is worth noting that they happened pretty much at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's just another iteration of this needs to be addressed.
Now, we mentioned in the opening, what can you do to stay safe, that we'd cover that as well. So I want to make sure we do cover that. I think, Michael, to that point, when you see something as vulnerable as crypto, because we all know how many people have stories of stolen crypto, lost crypto, all of this type of stuff, that if you're going to trust a wallet that you're going to download off of a Snap Store or Flatpak or anywhere for that matter, you need to do your proper research and not just trust, no matter what it is, that it's been properly curated or looked after. I'm sure there's tons of crypto wallets in the AUR and other things. And every place, basically, just because it's Linux, just because it's a Canonical Store, or just because it's a Red Hat product, does not inherently mean that it's secure. So your research would be things like going and looking at who the developer is. How long has this app been around? Looking at ratings, going and looking online and seeing if other people have reviewed this thing. And none of those individually by themselves, if the answer is yes, other people there's sites reviewing it, necessarily mean it's still legit, because you can create fake websites that talk about how great the product is and fake reviews and other things. But especially something as vulnerable as dealing with your finances, you really should be doing your homework on this stuff. And I think it's really about that. We need to not just trust things just because they're sitting out there in a Snap Store or FlatHub.
Which is why I blindly install everything.
Yes, Michael blindly installs everything. What are some other mitigation tips?
But seriously, I do want to reiterate something else. You were talking about how you need to make sure that it's trusted and you can test it. It's also important to go back and make sure again, because just because something was trusted and they have always been great for a certain amount of time, and then we find out that they were bought by something else and then completely ruined. That has happened on multiple occasions with software like browser extensions, all sorts of stuff. So it is important to consider not only just, there was even like a Windows app that I, for a long time, was using for years when I was using Windows, and I hadn't used it in years. And I recommended it to someone and they said, hey, there's a bunch of stuff on my computer. And it turns out that project sold itself to some garbage company that then started putting malware and adware in their application, like attached to it. Yeah. And I had no idea. I'm not going to mention it here because it's not relevant to anything, and I don't want people to accidentally download it because I looked for it. But I guess should I?
No. But the point of the story is this happened last week when Michael was a big user of Windows, and it's really a shame. It could show you how current these type of situations are. They're not just
okay. Now I have to tell you the example of who it was because this happened years ago, and this is proof because they sold years ago. It was Image Burn. I think it was called Image Burn.
Yes,
like
yes,
IMG Burn or something like that.
I had an account too.
Yeah, like they were solid for a long time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they just started installing nonsense. The reason I found out is because the person who asked about this, they said, "Hey, what's this weird blue looking Google Chrome icon?" I'm like, wait, what? We didn't install Chromium into the system. Why is Chromium there? And then I found all this other stuff, and then it was a mess.
Don't take advice from Michael. That's what I learned. Don't
take advice from Michael related to Windows usage. I have no idea at all. It has been so many years since I've used that. I cannot give you any good advice. Just the best option I can give you is Google it or YouTube it, and that's much more helpful than me.
One more thing.
Now if we're talking Linux, though.
If we cover something like snaps and we're trying to go back and clear up your record and stuff like that, could you do us a solid and just make sure you don't have major security flaws? Just do us a solid there next time. Kind of help us out. Just throwing it out there. Maybe think about it.
This episode of Destination Linux is sponsored by LINBIT. LINBIT has been keeping digital businesses running for over 20 years. They're the makers of open source products like DRBD, which is high availability software that has been part of the Linux kernel since 2010, and LINSTOR, industry-leading open source software-defined storage. LINBIT has an active presence in the open source community, and they collaborate with the community to help identify and build new features. LINBIT provides enterprise-grade software that runs on a variety of platforms and OSs without vendor lock-in. What that means is that you could use the software on any platform, including specific hardware that you want to use, or just off-the-shelf hardware that you get and connect it. All of this stuff can be interchanged really easily. And with DRBD and LINSTOR, you can have high-speed replicated block storage in almost any configuration, whether it's Kubernetes, Apache Cloud, or OpenNebula. There's even DRBD proxy for long-distance replication. LINBIT is run by its founders to this day, and all of its engineers and developers are in-house with offices in Europe and North America, which allows them to have global 24/7 support to complement their enterprise offerings. Visit linbit.com to learn more about the people behind LINBIT and the awesome software for block storage, duplication, and more.
Let's go to some positive news.
Yay.
I love Raspberry Pi. In fact, sitting right here you could probably see the Raspberry Pi keyboard if you're watching the video version right in the corner.
And if you're sitting here and you could just look at the camera and see my Raspberry Pi 5 that I got prepared to show you on the camera.
He doesn't use his. That's why
I use it, but I took it off so I could say, haha, Raspberry Pi 5, yo.
So the point of this is we're all fans of Raspberry Pi Foundation. I love everything they do here on Destination Linux, and they've been instrumental in getting open source and Linux to the masses. They've done so many amazing things for education and hobbyists. They've made it affordable. They made it hackable, most important. And it's an incredible platform for kids and adults to learn on, whether you're doing AI, robotics, anything.
They even created a whole new genre of computing.
Exactly.
Basically was copied by tons of companies that made it even better to get the single board computer stuff. And you could do all sorts of schools.
Love them. Love them. And there's nothing that I could say negative about that company other than I wish their supply chain was never hit, which I could say about a lot of companies, but it really hurt my feels with Raspberry Pi because I really
hurt
wanted
my feels because we couldn't get them.
Yes, I needed more. I needed more Pis. So there's some recent news out there that Raspberry Pi is preparing for an IPO, and it's kind of confirmed because the CEO is basically saying, yes, we're doing IPO. They're filing paperwork. So this is happening. This is a big deal. But people are upset about this. They're very upset about this news. I imagine Raspberry Pi executives are excited. Well, there's this fear that when they get listed on the stock market, these demonic, greedy vampires, also known as stockholders, may start to influence where the company focuses their attention on, which we've seen many times before. So what happens is they start deciding, because basically the executives now report to the stockholders. They own the company. And they start saying, you know what? We don't want you doing all this free hobbyist stuff. It's taking too much of your budget. Do less of the Linux or the Raspberry Pi Foundation stuff and do more of the business enterprise stuff where you can make a lot more money. And so then this company that we love for all the hobbyist stuff and for, having a cheap computer out there and relatively keeping the prices very in line with the initial launches starts having to answer to greedy vampire stockholders who are like, charge more.
So what you're saying is, based on track records of most companies that go public, this is a problem.
That's what people are afraid of.
That's an understandable concern. I think that that's a fair concern to a point, but also you have to consider the fact that this is a company that's been around related to the foundation for a very long time. And I've not seen them do anything that's not above board. Right.
Yeah.
So it's more likely that they're going to only put a certain percentage available in to public, and it wouldn't be a controlling interest and that sort of thing. And also there's a difference between like how you set up a structure of this kind of thing. If you set up a company and a foundation at the same time, and the foundation controls where the product is going and where the software is going and all that sort of stuff, and then the company is more of a facilitator to do funding, because you can't, if your foundation is a true foundation, unlike some things that call themselves foundation and are in no way foundations, if they are a true foundation, they're not allowed to make money, which is the problem that Mozilla had originally, because they had the Mozilla Foundation and they were not allowed. They were making so much that they couldn't justify having just a foundation. So they made the Mozilla Corporation to compensate for that. And in that sense, you have the foundation in control of where things go and what's done. And then the company is kind of facilitating. If they do a similar thing where the Raspberry Pi Foundation and the Raspberry Pi company are separate and the foundation has the control, we really don't have to worry about the company going public. Anyway.
Well, as far as I understand it, and we have direct communication Raspberry Pi, so maybe they'll help clear this up. But the way I understand it is there is a Raspberry Pi Foundation and there is the Raspberry Pi, I don't want to call them just corporation, but basically the main wing of Raspberry Pi that kind of deals with the enterprise and that type of stuff. Right. And the money they get from enterprise goes into the foundation to fund it. So in a way, the way they're set up today without the IPO, my understanding again is that you've got the corporation side, you got the foundation side. The foundation does all the amazing community work, the education projects, the STEM, all of that type of stuff. And they're funded from these enterprise projects, which is fine. But I like your suggestion, Michael, that the foundation runs things and then the corporation. But I think stockholders would have a problem with that. So one argument is the foundation will see more funding. One positive one is now the foundation, obviously it goes IPO. You're going to get a big influx of money. You're going to hopefully be able to fix a lot of the supply chain issues even more to get more product out there. Maybe you can have new versions, and that extra money coming in, you can take a bigger percentage of that and send it into the foundation to do more cool things. Of course, others are arguing that, that's not where the money will go. They won't send that money over to the foundation, and they'll instead utilize that for commercial applications. So it's hard to say where this goes because history isn't in Raspberry Pi's favor when it comes to, as you mentioned, Michael, companies that IPO. They generally end up being slaves to their shareholder overlords. And then they say stuff like it's smart business. And you get lots of lines like that. That was a throwback. No, we got throwback smart business people.
Could you say that? I was not listening to you.
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. I think the CEO is basically saying, hey, things aren't going to change. We're going to keep doing what we do. But they all say that, honestly. Like, if I'm being honest, they all literally say that.
Nothing's going to change. And then a week later, everything changes.
Everything changes. Yeah, probably not a week, but months later, it seems like a week later.
So that's the hardest part about these kinds of things is that Eben Upton, not sure how to say his name, he's been involved in the Raspberry Pi since the beginning, right? He's the founder and everything. And for as long as it's possible, like he's done things that are just, I don't know of any bad thing that he has done to the foundation or the product or anything. So I'm a fan of his work, and
you hope
it's still, you want it to continue, but you still have that concern because that phrase of nothing's changing has been said by everyone. So even though it's this person, you're still a concern because it's like, yeah, but sure,
Well, I think one additional suggestion is that the leadership, you have foundation leadership needs to be separate from the corporate leadership. And they need to have autonomy from the shareholder desire standpoint. And that is one way that they could keep this from basically having a major impact on a company we've all come to absolutely adore and love, to have that clear break between shareholder desires in the business and what happens in the foundation. You have two different leaders running their kind of show there to keep it separate. Might be something that would help keep them successful, because if they lose that community piece, then essentially Orange Pie and their other competitors are going to eat them for lunch, because this is Raspberry Pi's foundation is a community project. Yes, it makes its money on enterprise, but people love it for what it did for the community. And if they lose that, that company will get eaten alive.
And it's very hard to build a reputation, and it's very easy to lose it.
Yep.
Yeah. I am actually, though, not too worried because for one, the education element of the Raspberry Pi is where the original mission started. And that is one of the largest areas of growth is the schools. So that's still very, very, very important for
Which
them.
is good, for sure.
Yeah, which is good. And I think the other reason is having that separation, kind of the separation of church and state, let's say, in a way, the Raspberry Pi Foundation from the business side.
I wouldn't use that as an example because that's also been completely tainted.
Yeah.
So, but I
the
do think it's
idea
important.
of it, Jill's fair with
the idea
concept.
The idea of it, not to
Yeah.
keep that separation with the business and the community. The Raspberry Pi's business side, has had a really long history of private and strategic investors, like when ARM took a minority stake in the company in November of 2023. And that's only been good for the Raspberry Pi Foundation and company because they were able to better integrate the ARM processor with their devices.
Yeah, and ARM went
but
IPO.
That did not change the way, their emphasis on selling the pies to education and their mission statement of a tinkerer's toy, and not just for business and industrial and Internet of Things.
I think that we've kind of covered all the bases for this, and I think that it's very, we're optimistic because of the Raspberry Pi and the history of it.
Want to be optimistic. I'm not optimistic.
Jill and I are optimistic.
I want to be optimistic. Yeah. I've just been in business too long.
So Jill and I are optimistic, and Ryan is cautiously optimistic.
There you go.
And this is going to be a good thing. And it's based on the track record of Raspberry Pi, it probably will be a good thing. Based on the track record of IPOs in general, well, who knows? We'll see. But I do think it's important to note that the difference is that the Raspberry Pi Limited company is the one that's going public, not the foundation.
Yes.
So it could be like I described earlier, where the foundation has control and that's just funding. So I'm crossing my fingers that that's what's going to happen here. And but I think that this has the potential to be very, very beneficial to Raspberry Pi, and I'm going to hope for that one.
Because they could have all kinds of devices with this funding that could come out. If I'm going to talk about the positive side is we could have Raspberry Pi based phones. We could have new Raspberry Pi models every single year coming out.
Yeah.
We could have Raspberry Pis that are focused just on AI and things kind of like the NVIDIA tensors and stuff that they've done.
That'd be awesome.
There's all kinds of amazing
Raspberry Pi
things.
crypto machines.
Oh, crypto machines. Yeah.
Maybe not that part, but the other stuff, that sounds good. Raspberry Pi tablets,
so
that'd be cool.
There's some cool stuff that can happen from this with this funding that could take, Raspberry Pi to the next level. I just really want that foundation to continue to be successful. And as long as they keep their current leadership, I agree, things will stay in place, but the shareholders can kick out the current leadership, and then we get new leadership who wants to take it in a different direction. And that's where things
Let's just
scary.
make sure that we keep Eben the benevolent dictator for life.
There you go.
I trust in Eben Upton.
There we go. We'll get shirts.
We'll get shirts.
And if they do things wrong, we'll just go the way we're going to treat WoW. We'll go to war until they bring the foundation back to where it's supposed to. Don't make us tweet war you.
Don't make us tweet war you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, gosh, Michael, please. It's too much. It's too intimidating. It's too scary, that face. Man. All right. If you're not watching the video version of this, you're missing out.
You're missing so much.
Yeah. All right. So I've got one more bonus story for you. This is good news too. I got another
Woohoo.
good news story. I'm feeling like Jill today. I'm just happy. I'm happy with some of
Feeling
this.
good.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. So Signal, this is something we recommend to a lot of people when we talk
We
about
literally did that last week.
Yeah.
Yes.
WhatsApp and all these things. We're like, look, Signal's kind of our preferred one. This is what we like. But there's one downside of Signal, and that is you don't really want to give out your Signal to everyone because you're giving out your actual phone number because it's tied to your phone number and people can look you up by your phone number. So like me and Michael and Jill, we share Signal with each other because we trust each other. But if I met somebody who's like, hey, I want to message you and I don't really, really know them, I'd be like, I don't know, hit me up on Twitter.
Or maybe give them a session code or maybe even like in some cases I would just give my Telegram because you still have to sign. Pretty sure you have to still sign up on Telegram with a phone number, but you can use a username. And guess what, people?
Yeah. What?
Ryan didn't take the cue.
No. What? Guess what? What?
Guess what? You say what?
What?
Signal is doing that same thing by giving you usernames.
Cool. But
yay.
But
important to note, you still have to use your phone number to sign up.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. And also that's like Telegram and WhatsApp anyway. Right. And it's also kind of better than WhatsApp because you get usernames. And this is fantastic because Signal is like basically everything that we want from a messaging app, except for the fact that you have to give your phone number to literally everyone. That's why we spent so much time trying to make other tools work, like trying to make Telegram work. And we ran into some issues trying to make Matrix/Element work. And we ran into some issues.
Yeah.
And then we tried to use Discord because we gave up on the privacy part of it. And and that's basically because of the fact that getting someone into Signal is really easy because of the phone number. But giving out your Signal access is it's not a great idea. Let's just say it's not a great idea because you had to give your phone number. So the fact that they are now introducing this is wonderful. Mm-hmm. I'm still annoyed that it's been however many years it has been when it was like the most requested thing on their list of options that people want forever.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic. And you don't have to wait much, or you still have to wait a little bit because it's on beta. So like
it's a few weeks. They said they're going to roll out to everyone in a few weeks. So not too long. And I see this as a huge bump in the Signal because now Signal can become a social media outlet.
I'm happily going to be using Signal much more.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, because you can already create groups and things in Signal and stuff. But again, you're sharing your phone number. You do want to make sure that it looks like you do have to change some settings, even though you have the username option to where you tell it where you don't want people to be able to search for you by your phone number and stuff still. So you still want to go through some of those settings with Signal. But yeah, I think now Signal can become much more than just a messaging app. It can become a place where you can have socialize and hang out with people and other things. And, who knows what the future holds for Signal. But you know what we should do? Let's read. And I'm going to let Michael do this because he's the marketer. There was
a part that annoyed me when I read the announcement. I was like, yes, I read the headline. I was like, yes, I can't wait. This is awesome. Great. And then they make the most marketing spin. It's like marketing spin at its finest. And it made me laugh. So I just wanted to put it in the show.
All right.
It says Signal's mission and sole focus is private communication. Okay. For years, Signal has kept your messages private, your profile information, like your name and profile photo, private, your contacts private, and your groups private, among so much else. Now we're taking that one step further by making the thing that should have been private originally by default because of duh.
Oh, that's not in there.
I added that part. My bad.
Okay.
It said by making your phone number on Signal more private. Yay.
Yay.
Okay. So I was laughing at the fact that they were just making this huge thing. It should have started with, hey, everybody, we heard what you've been asking for years and we're going to do it. Yeah. That would have been much better and more upfront.
It's a good point you make.
Instead, we got the elevator pitch.
Yeah, I'm just making this as a point to say in the show because it's funny.
Yeah,
but also funny. Thank you so much, Signal, for doing this.
Yeah,
because
we love
Signal now can be the platform we all use for basically everything. Because the whole reason we didn't is just this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna do
exactly.
everything in Signal. I'm gonna eat in there. I'm going to sleep in Signal. I'm going to work in Signal. I'm going to work out in Signal. Everything. Michael said everything. We do everything in
that
Signal
makes sense.
now.
Except for the eating, that might be a little bit messy.
Yeah.
But the other part, because it depends on what you're eating. If you're eating pasta, that could get everywhere. The
This
noodles
Shame we
getting
could-
into the
we could
messages.
live
And
stream to our patrons.
Ooh, we could finally get rid of Jitsi and use Signal.
wait, does Signal have
Bring our
live
patrons
streaming?
in. I don't know.
They let you you can go on video. I know they
Video
were
chat,
experimenting
yeah.
with that. Yeah.
Maybe we'll use Signal. Who knows? The future is nigh.
Oh, wait a minute. Isn't Signal the same people as Red Phone?
I think
I don't know.
there is some connection there.
Don't ask questions
I
on the show
remember.
when we're not having anybody look them up. We need a person
Yeah, I need-
dedicated to look
We need
up
a fact
duty
checker.
Yeah.
On our-
on our show. If
I
anybody
think
wants to volunteer,
we are
send
the
your
fact-
application in as our fact checker. You have to show up every Wednesday for a recording like a patron.
and also, it's volunteer.
Yeah, I also will pay you nothing. And also, you'll probably get no recognition for the hard work that you do.
You will absolutely get recognition because we will ask you to fact check things all the time.
All the time.
And we
Yeah.
will thank you as you do it.
Now, you may
So
be
don't
asking
worry
yourself,
about that part.
Don't these guys fact check before the show? Shut up.
Oh yeah.
So the answer to that is agreed. Shut up. But also, yes, we do fact check.
Oh,
but the problem is that sometimes we think of things on the fly,
On the
and then
fly, yeah.
don't have the chance to fact
that's
check
what
it.
we didn't do.
And
Okay.
yeah,
So
that's
they have-
exactly what just happened.
Yeah,
Oh.
so we have to do DuckDuckGo during the show to find the
Yeah.
correct answer. You
And
know?
the funny part is, I was fact checking earlier. Like when you made that joke, and I didn't listen to you. I was fact checking at the time,
You're
which is
fact-
the problem.
Yeah.
So I
we need a
I was-
fact checker.
Yeah,
Clearly.
exactly. If otherwise, we can't pay attention to Ryan's terrible jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's terrible joke. God dang it.
I
Man,
got
how'd
it.
they come around on me?
He just walked right into it, even agreed to it. So good.
Yeah. All right. So, Jill, take us into the gaming sections. We're done with this Signal.
Oh yes. Let's go to something really fun. No. Besides,
Wait, are you saying
Signal.
Signal's not fun,
Oh,
Jill?
No. It,
Whoa. Whoa. See, that's how you misinterpret things, people. If we had fact checkers, we would notice that that's not, they would say, Michael, that's not what she was saying. Like, but we don't. So continue, Jill.
Signal is awesome, and Signal would help us with this game get out of jail. Actually, so
But you communicate in jail, maybe. With
Yeah.
Signal.
We are not recommending anything. That is not. That is for entertainment purposes only.
Totally. So last week we actually talked about the new Orange Pi Neo, the Steam Deck competitor, which is running Manjaro Linux. So this week, here is a game you might want to pick up for your Neo or Steam Deck. It's called JAILBREAKER in all capitals. JAILBREAKER.
Nice.
The game on
Does it
Steam.
get you? Does it get your iPhone out of using iPhone? Is that what it's doing?
That's not that kind of jailbreaker.
Yeah, it's not
Michael.
that kind of
Oh.
jailbreaker.
Yeah.
Although,
Okay.
although it could be used as such with code, malicious code in the background, I guess.
Depending if
Again,
you check this
for
download.
entertainment purposes only.
Yeah.
Since Michael and Jill stabbed Timmy last week, they want to review
Yes.
a game
His
called
name is
Jailbreaker
Tommy. How
Oh, Tommy.
dare you?
because they may end up in jail.
Or Johnny.
His name is Tommy. It didn't happen. It's a figment of your imagination.
Timmy Tommy, as I remember.
Tommy
Yeah.
Timmy. Timmy Thompson.
Yeah.
That's what we
That
named.
was- that was
We
fun.
named him.
All right, sorry,
so the
Jill.
game on
Continue.
Steam describes itself like this: a punishing one-button platformer about escaping prison. Test your skills and intellect as you ascend a tower of handcrafted challenges. Jump, fly, slide up walls, float in bubbles, and perform somersaults, all with the press of a single button. Reach the paramount. Reach! So when I launched this game, I immediately fell in love with the simple visuals of black and white rain cascading downwards and the beautiful ambient music playing with the sounds of rain falling. It's such a beautiful backdrop for the menu. But I soon got trapped in Jailbreaker's pixelated menace and pounding the up arrow again and again and again to climb to get to my destination and collect the diamonds while trying to avoid the traps and falling. So jumping to the next platform, all with a simple press of the up arrow. This game mechanic is brilliant. And meanwhile, simple white noise and static sounds playing in the background, which seems to be that of a vintage CRT TV receiving no signal. This game, again, is absolutely brilliant, yet a very challenging platformer with an amazing one-button mechanic. And honestly, it beckons me to play more. I've probably spent 5 hours in this game.
Well, Jill, with all your real life experience escaping jail, how close to reality was this game for you? You know?
Well, I know I'd never want to be in jail. It taught me that lesson.
All right, that's a good lesson, actually.
Yeah.
Especially because apparently jail has giant saw blades that are constantly going around you.
Hey, we're coming around 360 here on Destination Linux today, so
Yeah, all the callback.
360. So Jailbreaker is only $3.99 on Steam and supports our Linux penguins out of the box. And it is truly a brilliant game.
Very cool.
It's very well done. Sometimes the arrows will let you jump to the next platform, and sometimes they'll let you slide up walls. There's just that one button does so much in the game. And there's very few games actually that have this kind of mechanic where you're using one button for everything.
Yeah, it's kind of an accessibility thing too, Tony.
Yeah.
Utilize one button
absolutely.
for the whole game. Very cool. It reminds me of the show called Prison Break. You guys ever watch Prison Break, the show?
Yes.
I hadn't watched it, but
I like
know
that
Very
show.
good show for the first season.
Yeah. It got a little silly. A lot silly. It got very silly.
When the show becomes we're out of prison already and it's still going.
Yeah.
What are you doing? It's
What are you
called Prison
doing?
Break. Like what?
Yeah.
We're out.
How do you have a show where you're what?
Yeah. So did you have to tattoo the map of the prison in this game on your back, Jill?
No.
No. Oh, okay. They missed out on that
No.
one. That was a cool part of the Prison Break show.
And also probably the worst special effects team thing had to do like every single episode. Like draw that map on his back every time.
Oh, he was a committed actor. He had it really tattooed, the fake
That's why you
prison
notice
back.
he's wearing hoodies and stuff a lot.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Jill, what's our software spotlight to go along with our jailbreak game?
Oh boy, it's Stimulator. It'll help you stimulate you to get out of jail. That's for sure. It's actually Stimulator is an application.
I think jail does that.
Prevents the desktop environment from sleeping while it's on. And yes, this is this helps you while you're in jail. Stay up. Stay
I don't think you
awake.
get computers in jail, Jill. Otherwise, I might go.
No.
'cause we don't have to pay any bills.
I think this
No.
jailbreaker thing is making us go into this weird theme.
It is. So this app Stimulator actually works regardless of your desktop environment and is a great way to make sure your boss still thinks you are working because your messaging app never switches you to inactive. I'm just kidding. LOL.
You wouldn't really do that, Jill. I
No,
would, but you wouldn't.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
But wait, first of all, does it actually do that? Does it make
Sure,
your
it would.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as it's,
Active.
keeping your desktop alive.
entertainment purposes only?
Entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not recommending this.
Right. Not for that particular purpose.
Right.
It reminds me of the caffeine stuff, which
Yeah.
I think was an extension. But this is cool that it
Oh,
just
yeah.
works on everything.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, and this can also be used when you're running like certain diagnostics, like stress testing your new build or memory, or if you have certain processes running that can't be interrupted by your computer going to sleep, such as rendering animation.
Yeah,
that's
it's a good one.
that's definitely a thing. So check out Stimulator if you need to keep your desktop environment on no matter what. And it's available as a handy flat pack on flathub.org. It's a
So
great
I've got a
little app.
story to share with y'all. It's a
Cool,
little
Ryan.
embarrassing because I do a lot of triage and tech support, and I fix a lot of people's issues.
Yeah.
And sometimes I run into issues
You're
myself.
supposed to be the computer
I'm
guy.
supposed to know this stuff, right? So this is a true story. My computer recently, and by recently I mean for like the last 2 months, has stopped waking from sleep. Like I would have to sit here, like push the power button, and then I would see the lights come on, like my video card lights and stuff from within the case. But my screens would never turn on. And then I would hit it again to try to wake it up from sleep. And then it would basically just turn off the computer. And I hit it again, the computer would come on. And I've been dealing with this nonstop because I haven't had time to sit there and really try to fix it. I mean, when I had a few minutes, I went into power management settings and I would look there and be like, what are you set to go to sleep? I'd be like, never go to sleep, never turn off the monitor. And it would still do the same thing. And I went into BIOS and I checked the power settings there. And I was like, hey, everything looks good here. There's nothing causing this. And I just kind of was like, I don't know. I give up, right? I'll just do my 3-button push. And then one day it kind of struck me that if everything in the computer's fine and the stuff's lighting up, maybe it's not my PC, but my monitors themselves. And so what I went into and found out was that there's a power management setting in my BenQ monitors that basically puts them to sleep, that the PC low energy setting would not be able to wake them up from. So all of this work, and it was just that setting. Now, how did this happen to me and didn't happen all those times before?
We've both had these monitors for I don't know how long, maybe at least a couple of years.
Over a year.
Over a year. And this is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because your experience, and you were talking about, okay, first of all, yes, it's funny because you're the computer guy and it's just a basic setting of a monitor and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Absolutely. But this is wonderful because it just shows you that it doesn't matter how much experience you have, we're all humans. Yeah. And there's going to be some silly stuff we do. And also it's beautiful because I had similar issues with my monitor. And it just something happening, and all of a sudden I would connect it to my laptop, and then the monitor would just like go off for some. I'm like, why are you going off? Like, I don't know. And then my solution was to just never do it again and keep my.
You just gave up.
Oh, how funny!
I literally just gave up. I was going to make a joke earlier about how you didn't ask me for help with your monitors because I have the same monitors. Yeah. And the way you described it, I was like, I wouldn't have been doing anything. But this is wonderful because now I know I can use my laptop against
You can go fix it in the power. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's freaking awesome. And the irony of this is actually something I've known about because every time I buy a new monitor, I've got hundreds of monitors, and every time I buy one, I turn energy saver mode off.
Yeah, this energy
we forgot to ask Jill, and that was our mistake, really.
This energy saver crap is just for the government so they can say, look, we have it, but it's the most annoying feature in the world. And what's interesting about it is, why didn't I have this a year ago? Well, at one point, I was doing something with the monitors and I changed a setting I didn't want to, and I couldn't remember what setting is. So I went and changed everything back to default, reset to default.
Okay, yeah.
And
so it came back and you forgot that you had fixed
didn't realize those two events were connected and never put it back together, that when I reset to default, it turned power management back on, and boom, this was my problem. So it was kind of a perfect storm, but I'm hoping this tip and trick helped you if your stupid monitors won't turn back on. Maybe it's your monitors.
I'm going to test this after the show.
I love it.
I think it's going to help me for sure. Because I wasn't having the exact same problem, but it would be going to sleep and it would come back, but it would come back sometimes with some ghosting. Yeah. And with because that's incredibly annoying. Oh, and it would also come back with like this weird temporary burn-in. So if I left it alone for like a couple hours, came back and had it plugged in, it would work. Or if I plugged it into my desktop, it would work. But otherwise, it would have this weird issue. And then I just
gave up
doing it because I didn't want to risk messing up the monitor.
I'm not going to troubleshoot it. I'm just going to stop doing it. I love that.
That is a solution. It might not be what is the most recommended, but it is a solution.
It is a solution. All right, Michael, what other tips and tricks besides just giving up
do you have? What other solutions do I have for people? I have so many solutions. This one actually is going to be helpful. How many times are you playing a game and you get stuck on a boss or a puzzle and need some help? And if your name is Ryan, all the time. Yep.
Literally all the time. Yeah.
Yep. If you open your phone and you start searching, or you open your laptop and you start searching, you can get a lot of information, but alongside that information, you can get ads or useless videos of people just playing themselves and calling it a walkthrough. It's not a walkthrough if you're just playing the game. Yeah. That's not what walkthrough means.
Or they never get to the point. Yeah.
That too.
Yeah.
Or they talk about their day and how it went.
Yeah.
And that's also not relevant to the thing.
Video.
Anyway, the tip for this week is to use Steam's built-in guides.
Mhm.
That's right. Steam has built-in guides.
Never knew.
And this is a tip that I'm sharing with you because Ryan told me about it, and I didn't even know that
I
this
had
was a
no
thing.
clue this was a thing. None.
So if you're on the Steam Deck, you can just hit the Steam button and navigate to the guides where it will get you a bunch of tips that people have submitted to the system. And you get tricks and you get actual walkthroughs, which is pretty cool. And yeah, there you go.
You can do it through the regular Steam app too, not just on the Steam Deck. There's guides there that the players submit. Like, where has this been all my life? But apparently one of us did know about this.
Yeah, I've been using it for about 10 years at least.
Of course. Jill. Of course.
Of course, Jill.
She could have helped me fix the monitor. She knew about the Steam.
We should just put we don't use the phone that much these days because it's just kind of and not a
we had to
thing
give
that
our
people
phone
do.
number out. Thanks,
Yeah.
Signal.
Yeah, because Signal, Bob, all that sort of thing. But I'm thinking we should put Jill on our speed dial as number one for like everything.
Jill's my tech support now.
Yeah, exactly. No pressure, Jill. We're not going to make you answer every single tech question, just 99% of them.
Aw.
And I imagine these guides are really good. I looked through a couple
They
of them,
are.
Jill. I haven't obviously used it because I didn't know about it that much. But when I was looking at the guides, like they had like boss, here's what you do, all these type of things.
Yeah.
That is what I generally try to search for and end up inundated with ads and crap and things I don't want. But in the Steam
Yeah.
guides, it's very focused.
It's really nice because they break down by usually if it's written really well, it'll break down per map. Like what's going to happen in each map, and sometimes I've had to reference them when I got stuck. So
That's awesome.
I never get
happens
stuck,
to
people.
all of us.
I
you only
never
play
get stuck.
one game, Rocket
But
League.
you
It's not
only
like you need
play
a map for
Rocket
that.
That's true. That's there are no maps to walk through, so it's like you just play soccer with a car and that's it.
I'd get lost in Rocket League. I'd be turned around. Where am I supposed to go?
The best part about that is that it is a confined, racetrack
Arena.
spherical or oval
Yeah,
that basically doesn't allow
go
you to
too
go
far.
anywhere
Yeah.
than the arena itself. And Ryan would still probably get lost.
Well, I
Yes,
do
this
remember
is
one
true.
time playing with you, Michael, where I scored on ourselves. Like I knocked it towards the wrong goal. So I literally did get lost
sounds
in
like
Rocket
Ryan.
League at one point. So
Which was hilarious, though. Yeah. So I enjoyed
Michael's
that.
like, why
personally.
am I playing with him?
At the time, though, I was not the amazing player that I am now. This was like in the early days. So in Ryan's defense, he's still bad at directions.
Still bad at directions. Well, I've got some exciting news that we've never covered on the show.
Exciting news?
Yeah.
What?
Ooh.
No.
We're going to scale, Michael.
Wow. Really?
Yes.
Oh, that is like completely brand new information that no one knew about before, except for like the people who watch every episode for the past,
Yes.
I don't know, 10,
Or maybe
or
they don't
the-
get to this part,
or the
Now
interview that we literally did with the people from Scale.
Yes.
We're going to
Maybe
scale,
they don't.
Michael.
We're
Oh, we
booth
are.
420. Yeah,
Yes.
come visit us.
That
at
is
booth
the best
420.
part. When I got the message of like, here's your booth number, I thought, is
Yeah.
this a joke? And
I
then
know
it's
it's
not.
great.
So of course,
We got
everyone
the best booth in the
we
entire
have the best.
scale for sure.
Yes.
Uh,
And
This is
you're
a
gonna-
budding industry, people.
Right next door to the Linux Chicks of LA booth, which is number 418.
yes.
They do it by odd and even numbers. So
Very cool.
Okay.
I'm very
Nice.
excited that we'll be next to
Also,
Linux Chicks.
let's talk about what we're going to do at Scale. Because
okay.
we have tons
swag.
of plans.
Yes.
So first of all, Ryan doesn't know we're going to be doing this, but I added some extra pieces that we're going to be
Ooh.
doing so many things at Scale. First of all, tons of interviews. If you are a part of a project and you want to get interviewed, hopefully we have time. We're going to be doing those. So come by the booth. If you didn't hear, it's 420. Also, we're going to be live streaming from the booth.
Nice.
Woohoo,
And
that's always so
what we're going to be live streaming, well, that's a surprise to all of us because we haven't figured it out yet.
fun.
Well, at least
What?
it'll be us and we'll talk to you and hang out and show you around. And Jill's taking people around in our live streams before. It's a lot of fun. If you can't make it, you'll get to experience it through the eyes of Jill. And honestly, it's probably the best eyes to experience Scale through anyway. So
Also, because she's going to walk around the expo hall, and everyone's going to know who she is and say, "Hi, Jill," and then you kind of get that experience of
Yeah.
kind of, sort of to a small degree, being Jill.
I like to watch
And
it.
who
doesn't
live
want
through
that?
Jill and be like, oh, that's
know?
what it's like to be recognized everywhere you go.
Exactly, and vicariously be Jill. That's the value.
It's like VR.
Of this.
Oh my.
So scale 2024, March 14th through the 17th at the Pasadena Convention Center in Pasadena, California. You need to be there.
Okay.
You need to be there. We're going to have swag we're going to be handing out. So that's another reason you want to come to the booth.
Yeah.
We're going to do a giveaway of something.
Something we'll be giving away.
Haven't
all
decided
kinds
yet.
of cool stuff. Yeah.
Probably just give away one of Ryan's hats because he has way too many.
I've got way too many. Actually, we could probably do that if you want one of my hats, but probably don't. All right. So a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your faces. You can come join us on our Discord at tuxdigital.com/Discord. And if you want to watch the show live, us recording live, that's audio and video, you can join us now on Thursdays and maybe Wednesdays in the future. Today we're doing a Wednesday.
We're going to be so
We'll
much more letting you know about in future, because this is a test.
It's a
Yeah.
test.
If this goes well, we will continue to
If
do
you couldn't
Wednesdays.
make Thursdays, maybe you can make Wednesdays now and come join us as a patron. But either way, tuxdigital.com/Discord is 24/7. You can come hang out with people there.
7 3
Talk
6
about
5.
fitness. You can talk about games, movies, anything you want there in the Discord. And of course, our shows and episodes and all that, and a special patron only room, Michael. But how do they sign up for such a thing?
They go to tuxdigital.com/membership and
I'm
you
on
get
my way now.
all of this stuff. You get live access to the show. You get the patron only post show that happens every week after the show, where you get to hang out with us after the show. And it's just a fantastic time. It's kind of like meeting us at scale, but every week, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to
So
meet
awesome.
you at scale every week.
I mean, the scale doesn't happen every. It's kind of like that,
Kind of.
Yeah.
in
Got
a
it.
virtual sense, because
It
it's
is.
on a tuxdigital.com/membership to get all of this and more, and go to tuxdigital.com/store to get some awesome swag. We have t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, stickers, coasters,
Towels.
and so we don't have to. Well, actually, we might have towels. Not that one. What is that?
I don't even know what this is.
What is-
Oh, it's a Whataburger towel. Whataburger
Oh
towel.
my
Well,
goodness.
no. Put it down. They didn't pay for the sponsorship.
No,
Put it down.
No Whataburger.
So tuxdigital.com/store to pick up all of this stuff and more.
And make sure to check out all the amazing shows here on Tux Digital. That's right. We have an entire network of awesome shows to fill your entire week with geeky goodness. Check out the DOS Geek channel. Or maybe you shouldn't. No, I'm kidding.
What? Jill?
Burn.
Whoa.
Burn.
Jill.
I'm teasing.
Of all
best
people,
part-
Jill.
The best part is I was going to make a joke, and then I didn't have to because Jill burned you.
Boom.
Yeah. I'm
Hurt.
teasing. I'm teasing Ryan. Ryan reviews awesome tech, discusses ways to keep your privacy intact online, and geeks out on all things open source and Linux. Make sure to check him out. I love his episodes he does on security.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Because you're one of the only people out online doing the security and talking about the details of everything that we need to know to keep our safe.
Thank you,
ourselves
Jill. I
secure.
appreciate that, even though you slammed me at the beginning.
I
I
love
don't
you,
hold
really
grudges
do.
very long.
He doesn't hold grudges except forever.
Aw. And everyone head to tuxdigital.com and subscribe to all these great shows. And don't forget to leave a rating on your favorite app so others can discover the power of open source and keep those penguins marching in the full Monty of Linux and open source awesome sauce. Everybody, have a great week. And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination. We've
Yeah, you did
come
okay, Jill.
360.
You did okay on that last part. It was all right.
It was okay. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Okay. You did okay job, Jill.